Right, shalom, shalom, giving all praises and glory to our power Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushua, Bahasham, Rachakodash. Double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect of the tabernacles of David, scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, and wherever you may be, and wherever you may be, too, I say shalom and shalom. All right, I want to get into this article. I read a few articles this morning, but I want to actually go into this right here, where it says Trump wants new Golden Fleet of future battleships for hemispheric defense. All right, so we're going to read through it. It says America is back in the Americas. President Trump's Monroe Doctrine 2.0 plan, which we'll probably look into, focused on hemispheric defense, centers on securing the homeland, centers on securing the homeland and the wider and western hemisphere. So as far as the homeland part, we already see what's happening in the homeland. All right, declaring the enemy within, and so on and so forth. And then it says, and the wider western hemisphere, which not sure exactly where they're going at with this. You know, the biggest action we see right now happening with America is Venezuela. But anyways, it says the first visible military reposturing came with Trump's announcement of the Golden Dome. All right, remember hearing about that? Because you have not Iran, Israel with the what the heck they call it, the Iron Dome. Okay, they got the Iron Dome weapons like things like named David Sling and all this biblical type of stuff. Okay, which not Iron Dome is not really biblical, but you know they like to throw a lot of biblical names out there, but they don't even follow the Bible. Anyways, um. Yeah, Iron Dome. Then you had America coming out with the talk of a Golden Dome. And then I forget who it was. It was recent. Someone coming out speaking about a dome, um, similar to Israel's Iron Dome. I forget who it was, though. It wasn't highly important, but someone else came out talking about a dome, which they basically going into like missile defense systems and things of that nature. So Trump's announcement of the Golden Dome Continental Missile. There you go, right there. I see. They just keep reading. So there you go. See, Golden Dome Continental Missile Defense Shield. See, followed by renewed pressure on Venezuelan narco-terror networks and new attention on far-left political influence operations. And it actually makes me think about because I mentioned this once before in the Avengers movie when Tony um uh Stark, right, Iron Man, was arguing with Captain America. Okay, and he says he was like, "I told you what we needed was a shield around the earth." Okay, and it's interesting how Esau, his lot is because that's what he thinks to do. He thinks to build a, not exactly saying that's what he's doing like according to that movie, but he thinks that he's going to fight the invasion. Well, not it's not even invasion because this is Yahushua stuff, right? This is what he's going to rule at. But in their minds, that they're going to fight back from an alien invasion, which are really the angels coming alongside Yahushua. All right, and so all these defense systems for World War III and ultimately for Yahushua and the angels, and it's just not going to work. Okay. So, the shield around the earth. All right. Now, I'm not saying this is around the earth. They're just talking about around Babylon. But it makes me think about that because I remember mentioning it once before. Okay. And this is what Esau is doing. He's trying to, make America to the height of its superpower in all generations. Okay. Build this golden dome defense system. All right. Be the strongest and mightiest in the earth. And that's biblical because it calls them the hammer of the earth. Okay. But what does it say about that same hammer? How has the hammer of the earth been cut asunder? Okay. But let's keep reading. New attention on far left political influence operations being exported from South America. Trump has also worked to wind down foreign conflicts, recently stating that he deserves credit. Yeah, he said this right for ending 6 or 7 wars. Man, what we did, what we did we miss? I'm not sure what we missed. Okay, what did we miss? Okay, I don't remember him ending 6 or 7 wars. I don't remember him ending the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, okay? Because that ceasefire was broken because it's not according to the prophecies of the book, okay? He didn't end the conflict between Israel and Iran. Instead, what they did was bomb Iran, right? Claiming that they're making, and that's the hypocrite for you, that America is, all right, because they'll talk about certain people, gaining certain weapons, of offensive and defensive weapons and nuclear weapons and things of that nature, but yeah, they have them, okay. So how you going to tell someone else now what to have? This may be used against this person. But wait a minute, don't you got them? Won't yours may be used against some nation or country or whatever? But that's Esau, the hammer of the earth. All right, he wants to control everything perpetually, but it's just not scriptural. Anyways, recently stating that he deserves credit for ending 6 or 7 wars in his first months in office. He is now attempting to end the Ukraine-Russia war if he succeeds, and he's doing that by threats, man. Okay, he's putting sanctions on Russia. Well, that's not helping negotiations. All right. I think he's blocked the Tomahawk missiles. It'll probably come up again. But if you had given the Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine, well, that's not going to help peace. And nothing you say is going to broker a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine, anyways, because Russia is hell bent on saying that this area, this territory, this belongs to us. We're going to take it, okay? And so no one's going to stop us. And if you attempt to stop us, then you're just saying you're waging war against us. And so we're going to fight. And Putin, because we went into that article, or it was a news clip. I guess it's still articles because, videos can be used as articles as well. But where Putin was basically saying that, hey, whoever want to fight, let's fight. Now, that wasn't his exact words, but, he basically, Putin always comes in the mindset that I'm not backing down and I don't care what country it is, okay? And he moves that way, okay? He doesn't, Putin is, like I said before, of all these world leaders, the most laid back one is President Putin, okay? And you see that, okay? All right, going on. It says he is now attempting to end the Ukraine-Russia war. If he succeeds, hemispheric defense will move into higher gear. Yeah, because he thinks he's going to end the Russia-Ukraine war. So now he's brokering peace. All right, he's now he deems, or I'm not going to say he. Maybe he came up with it. Maybe someone else. All right. And I'm going to get this because I think I copied it before, but just in case, copy this again. But the king of peace, well, that's blasphemous because the king of peace is Yahushua. You're not the king of peace. But this is how he's projecting himself as the king of peace. He thinks he's going to bring peace to the Middle East, peace to homeland, peace to the Western Hemisphere, and then eventually peace to the world. What are you talking about? That's not in the Bible, man. Prioritizing the Western Hemisphere after decades of endless wars in the Middle East may also require upgrading America's naval fleet, as the proliferation of hypersonic weapons and drones by foreign adversaries could render some warships in the current fleet obsolete. The replacement fleet of next-generation warships, referred to internally as the Golden Fleet by senior White House and Navy officials, is intended to secure the Western Hemisphere as the world moves toward a bipolar state in the 2030s. Repel Chinese influence in the Americas. Yeah, good luck with that one. Okay, because China, that's why I think it's the second address. It's either 14 or 15 at the end of well, not the end, it's more to the end, but going to the second half of the chapter talks about war, but it mentions China, okay, because China is like the Chinese USA, all right, by way of their Belts and Roads initiative. They're going here, doing this, doing that, and they're a little bit of everywhere, just like America, all right. That's why it speaks of it in that manner. Let's see if I can find real quick, just a couple of scriptures to point out what I mean. Because I don't have any scriptures, so it's just the article and a couple other things we want to look into. Okay, so it's got to be 15. Should have 15 up to the end. Where it says, woe be to Asia. One of these chapters, I might have passed it. Oh, it's right here. And then it's lit up. Okay, and thou Asia, that are partaker of the hope of Babylon, and art the glory of her person. You see? Because it's the one nation on this planet that has fashioned itself the most closely as after America. Not only that, Xi Jinping thinks that they're gonna, be the next ruler of the earth, as all these nations do. That's why I always mention how all these factions are going to be broken up, and I always mention the BRICS. Okay, they're going to be broken up because Putin's not going to want China to rule over the earth. Okay, no one's going to rule jointly in the earth. It's just not going to happen. So Russia's going to want to rule, China's going to want to rule, uh, 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 India's going to want to rule, or whoever else. All right. So these different factions are going to be broken up. That's why everybody's going to fight one against another after Babylon's destroyed, because they want that they now like, well, what now? Well, who's going to rule? Well, I'm gonna rule. No, I'm gonna rule. Okay, they're going to fight one another for rulership, but that's when Yahushua is going to come and say, no, I'm going to rule. Okay, I'm the King of peace. Okay, I'm the King of the earth. Woe be unto thee, thou wretch, because thou hast made thyself like unto her, unto Babylon, and hast decked thy daughters in whoredom, that they might please and glory in thy lovers. Yeah, and I mentioned this, from time to time. Like we see some, like, or not see exactly, but like without seeing them, like if you would hear a group of girls walking, okay, and without seeing them, you probably all think that they're white girls or something like that, and then you might look, and it's like four white chicks, a black chick, and then somewhere you might have a so-called Chinese chick in there, and you're like, well, damn, they all sound the same, okay? But in particular, speaking of, the so-called Chinese, the Moabite, all right? If you didn't see some of these actual Chinese girls, you would think they were white girls just by hearing them, okay, and stuff like that, because they act just like they love Esau. They look down on us, but that's part of their curses, okay? It's only for a time period. All right. But these people love the Edomites, man. Okay. But it's okay because the Lord has lifted them up to this highest height so he can bring them out all the way back down to where they're supposed to be, which is the basis of men. But anyways, that they but the overall point is that these Chinese people have really fashioned themselves like the American, okay? Has decked thy daughters in whoredom, that they might please and glory in thy lovers, which have always desired to commit whoredom with thee. Thou hast followed her that is hated in all her works and inventions. Therefore saith the Most High, I will send plagues upon thee, widowhood, poverty, famine, sword, and pestilence, to waste thy houses with destruction and death. Okay, and we can go back from there. I don't have to keep reading that. I just want to make a small point. So continuing on with the article, the replacement fleet of next generation warships, referred to internally as the Golden Fleet by senior White House and Navy officials, is intended to secure the Western Hemisphere as the world moves toward a bipolar state in the 2030s, repel Chinese influence in the Americas, and maintain a naval edge in the Pacific theater, according to a new Wall Street Journal report. At the center of the Golden Fleet are plans for a 15,000 to 20,000 ton future battleship equipped with long-range hypersonic missiles described as the modern equivalent of the World War II battleship. All right, and it makes me think about one of those other articles I read this morning. But Russia testing this hypersonic missile, okay, that is supposed to be nuclear powered, able to house a warhead, and to top it all off, with unlimited range. Now they haven't exactly. I think it said they haven't exactly perfected it yet. But what did the scriptures tell us about the missiles? All right, the nuclear missiles. That these are the weapons of mine indignation. Speaking about the Heavenly Father, I believe that's Isaiah 13, if I'm correct. These are the weapons of mine indignation. All right, so He's going to allow these nations, because every time you look, then you hear this another nation saying they got this missile, that missile, and then next thing you know, greater. All right, well, hold on now. What was greater than the last thing you created? And that's what's going to keep happening. They're going to keep coming out with something and saying that, oh, this is greater than the last. This is greater than the last. This is greater than the last, up until that final point. Okay, because the final point will be the maximum. And that's when the Lord is going to, go ahead, and get things rocking. Right here. The noise of a multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people, a tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered together. The Lord Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, of hosts of armies, mustereth the host of the battle. These nations together to fight. They come from a far country, see, from the end of heaven, all over the earth. Even the Lord Yahweh and the weapons of his indignation, all right, the nukes are the weapons of the Lord's righteous anger, to destroy the whole land. What land? The land that this man rules in right now. And well, he doesn't even really rule. The bankers rule. Babylon the Great, okay? So continuing on, it says hypersonic missiles described as the modern equivalent of the World War II battleship. Instead of cannons, these next-gen warships will be optimized for missile warfare. All right. Here's more from WSJ. Under the Golden Fleet concept, the Navy wants to move away from a specific number of ships as a goal, Clark said. Instead, officials will focus on a fleet of roughly 280 to 300 crewed ships, plus large numbers of unmanned vessels called robotic and autonomous systems, all right? Because AI has entered into the war, okay, on a higher level because they keep, advancing systems to bridge the gap. The drone ships would act as hedge forces in each maritime theater, all right, to make up the difference between what the fleet can do day to day and what might be needed in conflict, Clark said. And not to mention, Esau still got, his robots and his drones and his robot dogs and things of that nature. Okay. Now, they may or may not be deployed on the battlefields, across the waters, but I'm pretty sure they will be deployed on the battlefields here that'll happen in Babylon, as well as in the inner cities where, they have to quell some certain uprises from the people. Okay. Good movie to watch. Probably, if you haven't seen it before, it's called Outside the Wire. The guy that plays what's his name? I can't think of his name right now, but he plays the new Captain America, the black Captain America. Okay, the one that played Falcon. All right, he's in that movie, and there's another guy. I've seen him in another movie. But I'm not really familiar with him. I haven't seen him too much. Only seen him a couple times. But that's a pretty good movie called Outside the Wire, where pretty much the dude was an android, a cyborg, a robot, however you want to call it. Okay. I'm not going to give you the plot of the story or whatever, you can watch it for yourself. But I want to mention that because in that movie, which I mentioned before, in that movie, they had, U.S., Army robots, okay? And they were called Gumps, okay? No, not Forrest Gumps, but they were called Gumps. And there's basically robots who, fought on the battlefield. And then, you had the opposite nation, the enemy nation or whoever it was, all right? They also had, there's one called Gumps, but they had their own robots, which were kind of different than the American versions, right? And so, yeah, it's a pretty good movie though. Like I said, I'm not gonna I might watch it again myself. It's a pretty good movie. Anyways, senior Navy officials see alignment between their own goals and the president's interest, said Clark, who is involved in Navy war games meant to inform the Golden Fleet. The Navy was found that today's fleet is struggling to keep up with modern threats. For example, the Yemen-based Houthi attacks in the Red Sea, Clark said. Clark acknowledged that it could take many years to build new, large warships from scratch, and the ship likely wouldn't see the light of day until after Trump leaves office. Plans for a replacement... I think I know why I'm laughing. Plans for a replacement cruiser, the canceled CGX program, indicate such a ship would take 5 years to design and another 5 to 7 years to build, according to former official. Next-gen battleships have been on Trump's mind for some time. In late September, while addressing military leaders at Marine Corps Base Quantico in Virginia, the president spoke about the urgent need for new battleships. Okay. Oh, yeah, video. Let me turn my Bluetooth off. President Trump says the U.S. military is seriously considering bringing back battleships. I think we should start thinking about battleships, okay? And it's funny how he says that, but up above, he just said that it's not going to be like, cannon-based. It's going to be missile-based, okay? Anyways, it is something we're actually considering, the concept of battleship. Nice 6-inch sided solid steel, not aluminum. Well, he's probably going to say it all here. I hope I can play it because I don't have an X account.
It's $31 billion. That's enough to buy a lot of battleships, Admiral.
Hold on, but I thought they were broke though. I thought they had no money. Okay, America's constantly doing the broke baby. Okay, Mitch, you probably know where that's from. If you don't, okay, where you get the 31 from?
To use an old term, I think we should maybe start thinking about battleships. By the way, we have a Secretary of the Navy came to me because I look at the Iowa out in California, and I look at different ships in the old pictures. I used to watch Victory at Sea. I love Victory at Sea. Look at these admirals. It's got to be your all-time favorite, black and white. And I look at those ships, they came with the destroyers alongside of them, and nothing was going to stop. They were 20 deep, and they were in a straight line, and there was nothing going to stop them. And we actually talk about, those ships. Some people would say, no, that's old technology. I don't know. I don't think it's old technology when you look at those guns, but it's something we're actually considering, the concept of battleship. Nice 6-inch sides, solid steel, not aluminum. Aluminum that melts if it looks at a missile coming at it. Starts melting as the missile's about 2 miles away. Now those ships, they don't make them that way anymore. But you look at it, and your secretary likes it, and I'm sort of open to it. And bullets are a lot less expensive than missiles. A lot of reasons. I should take a vote, but I'm afraid to take that vote because I may get voted out on that one. But I tell you, it's something we're seriously considering. There were powers. There were big powers. They were just about as mean and scary as you could be.
And you can tell he's just be talking. He just be trying to drag on whatever his point is, if he has a point. And that was dated September 30th, not too far back. All right, so, and it might be the end right there. Yeah, that's probably the end. So what I want to do is go back up and find something here. Because I know I wasn't going to remember the whole thing. So just give me 2 ticks here. Okay, so bear with me. All right, so I got AI generating here with a question from that article. And we got another thing I'm going to grab from that article too. So what is the Golden Dome Continental Missile Defense Shield? The Golden Dome Continental Missile Defense Shield is a proposed, still theoretical, U.S. missile defense system announced in 2025. Excuse me. It is not yet a functional or deployed piece of military hardware, but an ambitious project on its conceptual phase. The name is a reference to Israel's Iron Dome system, but describes a far more complex and expensive undertaking on a continental and global scale. Key features of the Golden Dome: a system of systems. America's always the best of the best of the best, sir, right? The Golden Dome is envisioned as a multi-layered defense network to counter a wide range of airborne threats, including advanced cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, hypersonic weapons, and drones. It would integrate with and expand on existing defense capabilities. So this is where you have to actually pause, though, all right, and ask, the question, well, if America's not worried about war on these shores, why would they need a missile defense system to guide it from missiles that obviously are foreign? It's because America's going to war, okay? That King of Peace stuff ain't going to last for too long, because the real King of Peace is Yahushua, all right? And there is war coming to not only the planet Earth, but it is also going to happen on the shores of Babylon, okay? I mentioned that in, I think, Jeremiah. They're going to get filled with like, they're going to come up on them like the rough caterpillars. The men of Babylon have foreborn to fight. So there's several scriptures there that hint at there's going to be foreign troops on American soil. And so the war that's going to take place in the earth as World War III is also going to take place in part on American shores, okay? And there's other scriptures that back up that, concerning the missiles, because it mentions how these troops are going to actually leave out of Babylon and go home, and then the missiles are going to get fired over. So the fact that troops had to leave from foreign countries so missiles could be shot from those same said foreign countries means that war is going to take place also on American soil. And that's going to be amongst Jacob's trouble, which is going to be amongst civil unrest, because they're going to have to fight against foreign enemies and so-called domestic enemies, right? Because it's going to be chaos all over the earth, but nothing's going to compare to what the Lord is going to do in Babylon the Great, right? But let's keep finishing off. Space-based interceptors. A central and highly debated aspect of the proposal is the use of a global constellation of satellites equipped with sensors and interceptor missiles. Oh, that's that Tony Stark stuff again. Okay, remember he had the missiles out in space? This nigga had a whole satellite of missiles and just... Okay? This space layer will provide early detection and the ability to intercept missiles in their most vulnerable boost phase shortly after launch. Yeah, because, some of these, like we just spoke about the Russian missile that they just tested, is nuclear powered, where the nuclear power doesn't kick in into after the thrusters, because you have the initial thrusters that shoot it off and take it ever so far, and then afterwards, that's when the other system kicks in to propel that missile to its full length. Okay, so it's saying at the initial thrust, when it's using the initial thrust, it's the most vulnerable. So we're able to detect these, maybe shoot down or whatever they think, right? So, got two back to back. It says directed energy weapons. Lasers are also considered a necessary component to counter the fastest, most complex threats that may be beyond the capabilities of conventional interceptor missiles. Yeah, because you could just aim the missile and fire. Okay, fire the laser. You know where that's from. Fire the laser. Okay. And this is what, don't mind me. Okay. And this is what Esau, in his mind, he wants to combat the heavens. He wants to combat everything in earth and just establish himself as his great superpower. Okay. And so much that he's making me forget my scripture right now. When was I got the grab? Yeah, Habakkuk chapter 3. I think it was Habakkuk I was gonna grab. Okay. Bear with me. Here it is right here in verse 4. I don't know, I was thinking 8. So, and his brightness was as the light. He had horns coming out of his hand, and there was the hiding of his power. And this is not talking about Esau, okay? The Heavenly Father and, Yahushua, all right? The power that they have and hold, in particular in these chariots. But that's why I'm going to this word horn, which is Quran in the Hebrew. And it says what? A rays of light. So Esau, being the sword of the Lord, okay, and his blessing was the sword, he's able to create missiles. All right. Everybody remember the Maui situation. All right. He did the Huawei on Maui. Okay. With the laser. He fired the laser. Okay. Burnt that up. Set that on fire. That was the laser from the sky. Okay. So this is what he has now. All right. Which is the closest to what he's going to get to the highest, form of power that the angels have on their chariots, and what Yahweh is going to have. I mentioned that even better. All right, in Second Ezra, the 13th chapter, these rays of light, right? The fiery blast, the blast of fire, okay, and the lightning and all these things mixed together, the blast of wind. Oh yeah, and it's not going to set anything on fire. It's going to turn it to dust. So imagine the heat of that. All right. So going back over here, lasers are also considered a necessary component to counter the fastest, most complex threats that may be beyond the capabilities of conventional interceptor missiles. Advanced command and control. The system will rely on a global AI-powered communication network to instantly connect sensors and effectors across vast distances. The complexity of this data fusion and real-time command and control system presents a major technological challenge. Strategic versus area defense. Unlike Israel's Iron Dome, which protects a smaller, more concentrated area, the Golden Dome would need to cover a vast continental area. Yeah, all the states. This has led to debate over whether it would be an area defense for specific regions or a truly strategic defense for the entire country. Why do you think I mentioned the Tony Stark thing? All right, we need a shield around the earth. Okay, so their best bet to try to shield and make a golden dome for Babylon is either by sea or by air, meaning the inner space. Okay, because otherwise they had to set up certain systems, probably in all the coastal states, or I don't really know. Okay, but anyways, because all of it is vain anyways. Status and challenges. The concept was heavily promoted by DJ Nero during his 2024 presidential campaign. In January 25, he signed an executive order titled "The Iron Dome for America" to officially begin the initiative. Which I don't remember hearing about that particular executive order, but I do remember hearing about the Golden Dome. And it's interesting how it says the executive order is titled "The Iron Dome for America," but the actual name for it is the Golden Dome. But it's okay. I don't care about the challenges. Lockheed Martin. All right, so I want to actually I don't have to go back up because we're in AI mode. Hopefully this is still here. Yes, it's still there. All right, so the Monroe Doctrine 2.0 plan. That was also from the article. So the Monroe Doctrine 2.0 plan refers to a revival and expansion of the 19th century foreign policy that reasserts U.S. influence over the Western Hemisphere. Says, while not a formally declared policy, it has been embraced by some U.S. political figures, notably President D.J. Nero and his advisors. In this modern interpretation, the doctrine is aimed at countering the growing economic, military, and political presence of rival powers, primarily China and Russia, in the Americas. Key aspects of the Monroe Doctrine 2.0 plan. All right. And China and Russia are close allies. All right. They're probably the two most powerful members of the BRICS nations. Okay. Next to that, probably India. All right. And then you have the other ones, which are which ones I miss? Brazil and South Africa. So countering rival influence, the plan emphasizes pushback against China's economic and military expansion in Latin America. This is a key departure from the original Monroe Doctrine, which targeted European colonial powers. In the new version, the U.S. would strongly oppose actions such as the sale of Chinese or Russian arms and the basing of their military assets in the hemisphere. Economic revitalization. Proponents of the plan advocate for re-hemisphering supply chains to bolster U.S. economic security and foster growth in the Americas. I don't really care about that. Okay, assertion to power. Let's see what this says. Some interpretations of Monroe 2.0 describe a more aggressive stance that treats the Western Hemisphere as an extension of U.S. homeland security. A Wall Street Journal essay published in October 2025 referenced a Monroe Doctrine, citing extraordinary pressure on countries to align with U.S. secretary agendas, including counter-cartel actions and military buildups. A system of systems. I think we read that already in the last thing we were reading. Okay. Yep, as mentioned in the previous response, this new doctrine is linked with the other defense concepts promoted by the Trump administration, such as the Golden Dome missile defense system. These proposals collectively aim to consolidate U.S. military, economic, and political control over the Western Hemisphere. All right, expansion beyond the hemisphere. In some analysis, the new doctrine is not confined to the Americas, but instead takes the original policy's logic of regional dominance and applies it globally. This vision would redefine U.S. alliances, managing rather than simply defending the Western world. Context and controversy. The Monroe Doctrine 2.0 plan remains a controversial and largely conceptual framework. Potential for conflict. By explicitly pushing back against Chinese and Russian activity in the hemisphere, the plan creates a risk of heightening international tensions and possibly sparking a new arms race, you see? So no matter how much, plans they make, how much peace they talk, only thing it's going to lead to is more war, because that's the plans of the Lord, all right? Multipolar world reality. So we don't really need that. Let's probably end off, as a matter of fact, let's probably end off with maybe a world war. Some kind of world war scripture, as a matter of fact. Let's type this in. In Revelation 1, woe is past. There it is right there. One woe is past. Here it is right there. I was thinking 9. I wasn't sure though. All right. One woe is past. And behold, there come 2 woes more hereafter. All right. One woe is past, meaning World War I. Okay. And behold, there come 2 woes more hereafter, because you got to understand that at the time John the Revelator received this, obviously World War II had not happened yet. And after World War II, they promptly went into the Cold War. Okay. And then what's next up? World War III. So World War II now in real time has already passed. So World War I and World War II has already passed. So 2 wars have already passed. And so we are awaiting, all right, the full bloom of this third world, the Third World War. Okay. Actually, that was probably a good scripture right there. Just stop. I was going to get another one. But yeah, we could probably just end it right there. All right. Just a little not document, but article that I saw this morning, from the few that I read. And, I was just, Spirit was on me to go to that one. All right. So, Lord willing, you will edify. Shalom.